Good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of the Dialogue on Salt TV. It is that time we'll reflect on the major events of the week. We had a very, very busy week with mixed emotions, sadness and jubilations. But the panel is set to take you through those major events. My name is Prince Apollo. We stream live on YouTube, Twitter, which is now X, and all other media digital platforms. You can catch the debate across the media platforms. On the show this morning, we will reflect on the internal processes in the ruling National Resistance Movement as the NRM concluded their primaries. Well, in some places, the polls were marred by irregularities and pockets of violence, but in some places, the process was concluded successfully. Then we will take time to look at those events. But, well, we also have to look at the general state of politics in this country ahead of the 2026 elections, especially after the public discourse was infiltrated by tribal sentiments relating to a tweet that was made by the CDF and the incarceration of the bodyguard for Robert Sentam Kyagulanyi, who was later arraigned in court, but the tribal talk has now surfaced after the NUP president also wrote a letter to the elders in Ankole and Kigezi, challenging them to disown the statements relating to the Banyankole. But again, we have to congratulate all the Catholics across the world. We have a new Pope in Pope Leo XIV. Congratulations. But let me introduce my guests. It's my honor to introduce to you Dr. Jeda Dwere Wansala. Please speak to our viewers as we interrogate these matters of national importance.
Our viewers, we are always happy to be with you every Saturday. And good morning. It's a cool morning here in Kampala.
Sure.
And we hope you're also enjoying the weather because it's time for rain and people are cultivating. So we greet you. And of course, special greetings to my two constituencies, Buburo County East and the United Republic of Chirinya. And of course, I'm happy to be with my colleagues here, senior comrade, Rugarama, and our host, Apple.
Sure.
Thank you for keeping the smartness.
Sure.
Though in DP colors this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wirihe Wansala. Dr. Rugarama, speak to our viewers. And Dr. Rugarama is a lawyer, but also a Pan-Africanist.
Good morning to you, dear comrades. Good morning, Prince Apollo. And indeed, a very good morning to my brother, Dr. Jared Wanzara. I probably would wish to congratulate our brothers and sisters in the Catholic fraternity upon having gotten a new Pope, Pope Leo XIV.
Yeah.
That is the name that he chose to adopt. And I think for the very first time again, that coming from North America, although President Trump makes it look as if he's the very first American, I think to him, America is only United States of America, which is not true. Then, of course, I saw how the top leadership in America was congratulating him. His CV is very rich, and I believe that he's going to give a positive contribution to the growth of the church. I am also following very keenly from the Pan-African point of view what is happening in Burkina Faso with Captain Traore. But probably also permit me say that I'm impressed with the approach to running of government by the current president of Botswana, because he's telling America to take away their military base, and he's also realigning the trade relations between Botswana and United States of America. You remember that United States of America was having exclusive mining rights over diamond in Botswana. So generally speaking, I think on the African continent and the globe, we are not doing badly, because even in Ukraine, when Putin was celebrating the victory, where more than 20 world leaders were gathered, they had also declared a ceasefire. He was no longer bombing Ukraine. So to that extent, I think I'm grateful and I'm mindful, of course, of our reorganization of the units in NRM, the recently concluded exercise.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Daniel Galaman. Thank you so much, our viewers. You can be part of this discussion later in the show. We will tell you to send in your comments and observations on the topics we will bring today. But quickly, before we kick off the big show, Dr. Jerry Dwariwanzara, and as we congratulate the more than 1.4 billion Catholic or the believers in the Catholic Church for now having a new pope in Cardinal Robert Prevost. Prevost. Prevost.
I almost thought it was provost.
Yeah.
That would be ours now.
My particular concern is about how these influential leaders, the voices from these influential leaders are no longer respected. We were talking about Pope Francis, how he took an initiative to speak to the protagonists in the Sudan conflict, but at the end he passed away even when the conflict was still raging. And we even saw how he spoke against the genocide in Gaza. But the voices of these influential leaders, especially religious leaders, are ignored. That is my concern. Is it your concern?
Well, it's a concern. However, I don't think it is new. If you read history, you have had leaders who have conflicted with churches. You have had in countries where religious leaders, like in our own here, where a cardinal was involved in the NRM struggle, which was an armed conflict. And there was tension between the cardinal and the sitting government at the time. So sometimes
The Cardinal Archbishop.
Yeah, it was Cardinal Emmanuel Nsubuga.
All right.
Yes.
I thought you were talking of Rome.
No. This was during the NRA, and he was so active in supporting the NRA.
All right.
And there was a bad blood between the Obote administration and the Catholic Church at the time. Today, we see when the Catholic Church talks about the ills, maybe torture, corruption, and so the response from the central government is so harsh sometimes to the church. Although at times they use carrot and stick, where after a few days you see them supporting a circle, maybe Catholic circles. And so it has always been so, because as humans, there will always be differences in opinion. Like now, this generation into where we are now, we are seeing other emerging global forces struggling for influence. China talking about peaceful rise and fiercely competing with the US in technology, in trade, in diplomacy. We are seeing US trying to say we have our position has weakened under Trump. We want to do America first, abandon these global bodies as we strengthen ourselves and we reassert ourselves. So in this context, we are seeing Russia trying to challenge a unipolar world where they say, no, you cannot impose your values on us. And of course, we are seeing also in Africa, some countries also standing strong, like the Burkina Faso, on what they feel should be good. Burkina Faso, I think Namibia, Botswana, and so forth. So in this context, I don't think there is going to be a time when all are going to respect a particular leader's position just because he is either a religious leader globally or not. So these contestations will always be there, but at the end of the day, for me, what I pray for is always the voice of reason. Like Pope Francis has been very critical in Gaza. Is it still justifiable that the bombing should continue? Is it justifiable that they should be displaced from their land and migrated to other countries? And is it, is it reasonable that a place you have bombed and over, there's no schools, you have bombed hospitals, you should continue doing so as though you are conflicting with insects that you are at liberty to. But even insects, sometimes they are protected by, they are protected either for tourism purposes or for medicine purposes, but these are humans. So, but as long as the messages come out strong, maybe at some point the voice of reason can prevail.
Thank you. Comrade Rugarama, one quick comment. As Catholics receive and welcome a new Pope, you can make a comment on my concern about the respect for these religious leaders on matters, on global matters, especially where rights are being violated.
Ndugu Apollo and our esteemed viewers, I will even remind ourselves that at one time when we had a very major conflict in it was Eastern Europe, one of the countries in Eastern Europe, the then Mother Teresa gave a phone call. I think it was during the time of Clinton, the president of America at that time. I probably was Clinton or something like that. And that part of the world, using America's influence, there was an overthrow of the regime and the so-called reorganization of the country. Now, Mother Teresa didn't just go on her knees to pray because she was an influential figure in the Catholic Church. And I want to believe that she thought it wise that on top of prayer, she should also systematically go ahead and contact the earthly forces to make sure that they bring sanity in that part of the country. In Southern Sudan, where you have, in your introductory remarks, mentioned during the time of Salva Kiir, I think it was Salva Kiir and again Machar. Interestingly, both are Catholics. That's what they profess to be. Even when the Pope Francis washed their feet and kissed the feet, which should have sent a very, very, very strong message, they still went ahead and never solved what was the intention of Pope Francis. You can imagine, therefore, that the issues which brought the conflict in South Sudan up to today, by the way, probably are much beyond what Pope Francis could solve with prayer and humility. Now, when you look at what happens globally, you get a feeling that even where we have had top religious leaders like the Pope make very serious comments about what is happening, for instance, in the Gaza or the Palestinian question, and it is not respected. At that level, you now take a view that man probably has stopped fearing. The fear of God has gotten out of man. And we take pride in what we can sort out ourselves. And I think that is a risk for disaster, because for me, I told you, as I conclude on this, that I am a very good Christian at a point where Christianity or the religious, whatever affiliation one is, preaches peace, stability, unity, togetherness, and moving towards reconciliation and development.
Sure.
Short of that, as long as any religious affiliation is preaching division as segregation, I am not.
Thank you.
Part.
Thank you so much, and I take the pleasure to introduce Richard Baguma, a veteran journalist, but also a political commentator. Welcome to the show, but you will go directly to what is our concern now as we welcome a new Pope. The influence of prominent religious leaders seems to be waning. When Pope Francis even had to make a prayer every morning for the people in Gaza, he made comments and pleaded with the major players in the conflict. The conflict still went on and is still going on. Is it your concern, Richard, that such voices are being ignored?
All right. I am going straight, but let me just say good morning to our viewers and listeners and my colleagues here, and to you. And also, as always, thank God for enabling us to be here. It is by, by His grace that we are here. The Catholic Church is one of those first Christian denominations. It has broken. You have had break-offs from it. So first, I'm going to the question of the power waning, and I'm not sure that that is true.
Influence, especially on global matters.
Yeah, I'm not sure that is true. If they had absolute influence, then how come even the King of Britain broke off, the Jesuits broke off, I don't know who. So I'm not sure that it's true that their power has gone down. I think you have situations which are so contested that some stakeholders, some players in that situation will opt to that the best thing is not to listen. The Israelis have now ordered the closure of schools. It's just that you have developments and situations where some of the protagonists decide to ignore belligerent. Yes.
Thank you so much, our viewers, and thank you so much, Richard Baguma. And now let's kick off the big show on Soul TV. My name once again is Prince Apollo. You can be part of the discussion by sending your comments and observations. And we are looking generally at the state of politics in Uganda today, as we all focus on the 2026 general elections. Dr. Jared Wanzala, I spoke about the tribal sentiments that popped up in a few weeks within the public discourse, and with now Honorable Bobi Wine writing to the elders in Ankwala and Kigezi to, of course, he says they should demonstrate a moral position on the matter of sectarianism, what he calls sectarianism. Do you think what we've had and witnessed in the last few weeks is of any consequence as we look at the history of our politics and where we are going, we're heading into the 2026 general elections?
Thank you very much, Apple. Every time that discussion pops up in our body politics of Uganda, it raises back my mind to the history, especially of the Bourbon monarchy, that we in Europe, that they learned nothing and forgot nothing about their history. You know, the issue is, if you are playing in the politics, playing in these waters of Uganda, what do you have to know and about this? You know that in Uganda we have laws against sectarianism, but those laws did not come out of the blue. Now, the history of Uganda is that prior to independence, this country was kind of divided, or kind of I don't know how to categorize, based on classified based on the colonialists. I think how they wanted to do it to be. For instance, there was a time when the whites were in power in Uganda, and then the Asians, Ugandan Asians, were in the towns all over the country doing business, and then people from the north, Choli, Lang, Oteso, were largely recruited in the army, in the prisons and police, and you found mostly the Bantus from the south and eastern Uganda were absorbed some in the civil service, and then also in the production, such that they produce the coffee, they produce the cotton, and then to facilitate the economic engine of the colonial administration. In our post-independence, governments, this was one of the challenges of the governments at the time, because then you saw that, for instance, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote emerges from the Lango sub-region and finds the forces that are dominated by people by his kins, and therefore he tries to take advantage of the situation and then militarizes the politics, resulting into the negative history we saw. People like Idi Amin rose through those ranks with very limited education and took power, and the way they ran the government, you also remember, like the blood was shed, people were killed, extrajudicial killings, and so forth. And so those tribal sentiments came up. When Idi Amin fell, we saw things like the Ombachi massacre in West Nile, where his people were targeted and killed. And also we had some people in this country called the Anyanyas, by the virtue of their color being very dark, tall, and targeted and killed. And some were being killed for fun, by the way, tying tires around their bodies, and, just because they were believed to have associated with the previous governments that, like in Uganda, where they were called in Kanywa Musai, the blood suckers, So we don't have a very good history. Also, if you talk about sectarianism, we know that Muslims were also murdered around the same takeover after Amin in Ankole sub-region. We have heard of the massacres in Bushenyi, Ishaka, and then in Mbarara. And then when post UNLA government came in, you have heard of the Mukura massacres, where Itesots were also burnt in Mukura, in wagons, and fire set up, So some of them were revengeful killings. Others were as a result of basically anger and hostility towards certain sections of people. So in the wisdom of President Museveni and the NRM, when he came, the NRM stood against tribalism, sectarianism, and if you look at the recruitment method of the NRA, they sourced many intellectuals from university. It never mattered which part of the country they came from. That's why you see historicals from different parts of the country who were the building blocks of the NRA. And President Museveni publicly, when he had the energy, at rallies, in churches, he preached against sectarianism. So even the Penal Code Act in Uganda was amended, I think particularly section 41 of the Penal Code, that's which punishes sectarianism. And sectarianism means too much too much attachment to your religion, tribe, sect, so that it even threatens you. You use it to promote hatred against other members of society. So now they did not end there. The constitution, which was birthed by the NRM under the objectives of the constitution, it talks about the constitution promoting national unity and equality before the law, so that we can have that social cohesion. It does not end there, by the way. If you go to other laws like the Political Parties and Organizations Act that govern the political parties, they say that any political party should reflect national character. Meaning that you are not going to have your smaller tribe and then forming you come and you say this is a national political party. It says have it, it should be democratic and also promote national character. I think that is why some parties, every party has copped vice chairman Eastern, vice chairman Western, where they are not able to attract many people from other sub-regions. Others have taken deliberate decisions to appoint. Now, government did not end there. They created the Equal Opportunities Act, and then Equal Opportunities Commission. Now, this commission is supposed to monitor the behavior of government in the recruitment of people, promotion of people, access to opportunities by people with disabilities. Because of their weaknesses in society, they may be left out. They want to see how many people from the minority tribes are they being sidelined, because where you have big tribes, you can find small tribes like the Benet, like the Batwa, the Iki, they are left behind with no access to these opportunities. So if you feel you are discriminated, you can go to the Equal Opportunities Act. And also the Uganda Human Rights Act also was created to promote that rights of different people within our society are also respected. Now, as Ugandans, in practice, in our political parties, in government, are we adhering to that? Because usually these tribal segments come up when people feel like either their access to opportunities is being denied, or they have struggled, they are trying every avenue, and therefore their abilities are stifled, or when they feel that there's deliberate,
In your opinion, Dr. Wanzara, the latest tribal sentiments, are they warranted? I mean, was there a reason why now these sentiments should be popping up in public discourse?
You see, a few weeks back, I told you that when in Uganda's body politics, when electoral processes begin, we behave like frogs. Frogs that have been denied of water, that have been,
under hibernation.
Under hibernation. So when they see the clouds forming and the rain is starting to, then they begin making uncoordinated noise. But of course, I would expect leaders in this country, in political parties, in the army, to know that if you trigger these tribal sentiments, by the way, you are not safe yourself. Or you may be safe as an individual, but eventually, when hell breaks out, you may not have the capacity to solve the entire problem, because now it is the weaker people in society the most vulnerable, who will suffer the most. So for me, the significant thing is that if these things have already come out and people are discussing, I think it is important that as a country we discuss this tribalism, because tribalism is part of sectarianism.
Thank you. Dr. Rugarama, let me hear you on this rather dicey matter relating to tribalism and sectarianism in general. Do you think we should be finding time to discuss this matter, possibly find solutions like for it, like Wanzala is saying, that we should find time and it is time for Uganda as a country to discuss this matter instead of every time such discussions or such sentiments come up, we suppress them, we quickly dismiss them.
First of all, my brother Apollo, I know that you are aware that you're asking a question of this nature to the chairman of the Pan-African movement in Uganda.
Sure.
Now, against the Pan-Africanist ideals and the fact that we are looking at national resistance movement as the party in government, mindful that in the 10-point and now 15-point program, non-discrimination is one of the points. Don't discriminate, upon which this government won the hearts of the people. It pains me, after close to 40 years, that we can go to a national public television of this nature to discuss discrimination. It's a very painful experience, but I will undertake the task nevertheless. In our Constitution 1995 as amended, the preamble is very clear that against the background,
turbulent history
of Uganda. Now, meaning that there was a very big problem with the history of Uganda. We enact this constitution. It would be a very big mistake for anybody to take us back by way of wanting to recreate what the NRM government has for so many years been fighting against, and to a very good extent, by the way, credit to NRM, managed to contain, I should even say, eliminate. Because if we are not weekend historians, you remember at one time, a Catholic was a Catholic. And the development of schools on different hills, for instance, was also in line with, it would be unheard of that a child from an Anglican background would cross and study from a Catholic school. Later, when we started developing a situation whereby students would cross, find somebody from, there are many students from from Ankore who went and studied in Samuel Beka, Boroboro, Bote, in Ntare, from different regions. And later, when it was under the NRM, it even became more beautiful because, like Kwame Nkrumah noted, if Africa must develop, we must kill this thing called tribe. Not that we should not look at ourselves as, say, you are Mnyankore, you are Gisu, you are, no. But that should be secondary, not the primary. Because when that defines you, then it means that you are living the bigger, the most important part of your life as a human being, and you are emphasizing your being that very tribe. And the Greeks have got categorization of human beings. There are such things as idiots. Now, an idiot is that somebody who prides in his, then they are tribesmen, then they are citizens, Now a citizen is the most advanced.
Let's come back, comrade, on this.
Because I'm showing you that the idea, your question, the idea of anybody coming up with the issue of discrimination, emphasizing the identity, politics of identity, politics of identity under our NRM is something that we have been condemning.
In this particular case,
yes, in reference to the tweet you talked about. Now, I at least I read the letter from the human rights chairperson.
Yeah.
In reference to Ed Mutwe. I want to, the release of Ed Mutwe. I want to say this, Sebufu, as his name is. I want to say this, that there is nowhere where the Wanyankore sat, I'm Wanyankore myself, and there are so many other Wanyankores elsewhere. I don't remember being invited or inviting myself to any meeting where we sat and we sent somebody, because the talk has been that the CDF came up with a tweet and the Wanyankore should explain as to whether we are part of that tweet or not. I don't think that what the CDF did, if it is true.
That is what Robert Chagulanyi is
urging. I'm coming to that because I want also to...
The elders to
I want to refer... Because you see, if the CDF tweeted what he tweeted, and now we are looking at Sebufu being aligned in courts of law, now he has been remanded. Really, it would be unfair to the Wanyankore, wherever they are, myself inclusive, that we should answer for a tweet of a CDF whereby it is associated with the Wanyankore. I think that is unfair to us, because the CDF is holding a public office. If he is to answer, then he should answer in that capacity, but not as a Mnyankore. We didn't have a cultural institution or a baraza somewhere where we made a resolution that so and so go and represent us and tweet in this fashion.
Anyway, Comrade Rugaba,
that is yes.
Does that tweet itself really amount to, I mean, the content and the message amount to tribalism or being sectarian in any way?
No, if the tweet is that I am with so and so in my basement and I am teaching him Nyankore, what would you expect the public out there to? You see, some of these things, we must be honest.
Yeah.
What do you expect the people out there, especially who want to make political capital? Because it was very easy for anybody reading that tweet to say, no, I think this tweet is not proper in this context. You are a CDF and this is what you have said. Maybe it is not befitting of your office and you shouldn't have said this, but to put it on the Wanyankore is the most unfortunate thing, in my opinion. But let me conclude with this.
Please.
You see, the Pan-Africanists, wherever they are, have been fighting discrimination. We have been fighting the civil rights movement in the United States of America. Have been when you look at the entire history, the Malcolm X's, the Farrakhan, Louis Farrakhan, the W.W. Du Bois, everybody, all that litany of people, they have been fighting discrimination on the account of color, on the account of religion, on the account of sex, and the same has been replicated here in Uganda. It is very unfortunate for us whose background is against Pan-Africanism to have sentiments which are in line with discrimination, or any statement that is done and it is being pushed into a certain tribe. We are at a level now after close to 40 years as NRM, whereby we have got to be extremely careful with what we say and what we do.
Thank you. Richard Baguma, are you really concerned about the tribal sentiments now popping up in public debate today?
First, I am not part of the people
Or
who...
anyway, should it be a matter of concern?
No, for me, first, I'm not part of those people who will apologize to belonging to a group. Doesn't matter being a Protestant, Christian, doesn't matter being a Munyankore, doesn't matter being from Ontari, doesn't matter being from Makere. I'm not part of that group that is put in a position to apologize for belonging. So no, I am not going to apologize for belonging. That one, I am sorry.
You didn't even make an application to belong.
Yeah. But even where I could have applied to belong to the savings group of Dr. Wirik, you don't make me apologize for belonging there. So that one, no, this one, this pushing me in a corner and wanting me to wind apologizing, that one I'm not going to do. I'm not part of that group. No. So that's the first one.
Okay.
The second one is that Dr. Rugarama talked about political capital. It's a period for political capital.
Sure.
It's a time for political capital. So wherever you can glean,
Whatever they
squeeze
can jump on.
for political capital, you will jump on it. This is one opportunity.
For Bobby Wine?
Teaching people Nyankore is an opportunity for everyone who wants to quarrel and be angry. And we are many angry people. We are very many angry people. So no one also has a monopoly on anger. This one where people want to seem like they have a monopoly on anger. Excuse me. It can explode for all of us. You don't have monopoly, my friend. So that's the other one. That we have to gain political capital, and that's the nature of wanting to gain political capital, particularly where you do not have some of the issues or you can't talk about them. Gain advantage. Green advantage. It doesn't matter how many people you risk. It doesn't matter how much economy you destroy. People will want for power, for personal gain, for wealth. They can go out for parts of gain. We have seen kings selling their own subjects. Yeah, so that's the other thing. The other thing is this question of tribalism versus sectarianism versus favoritism versus sharing of opportunities. You know, like we mix all of them. Yeah, it is as if tribalism for us is a negative sum game. It's not even zero sum. It's a negative. But tribalism can also be a positive sum game. Groups coming, why did groups come together? Why did groups form? Why did clans form? Why did tribes form? Was it that human beings were stupid? No. They are elements that are positive and good.
As units of organization?
Absolutely. Yes. And then there are elements which people take and negativize. And that's, I think, what we should be dealing with. Yes. The issue is not the tribe. No, in my view. The issue is discrimination. The issue is mistreatment. The issue is, and that's what I think we should be tackling. So that's why I was telling you that I don't want groups which, when I belong, I don't want to be intimidated into apologizing for belonging to that group. They are the groups which I didn't choose. They are the groups which I have. And in this case, what we are talking about, in my view, we are talking about the sectarianism, real or apparent, that seems to be giving advantage to a small group over public resources. I think that's where that's the core. That there is a perception, real or imagined, that a certain ethnic group, and when you go into that ethnic group, then they narrow it down. When you go to the Banyankore, they say, no, it's not us, the Banyankore, all of us, these Rugaramas, you look at his study, his study nature. For him, he's an agriculturist. Me, I'm a cattle keeper. Then the Rugaramas say, no, it is not us who are the agriculturists, it is the other cattle keepers. When you go to the cattle keepers, they say, no, it's not the cattle keepers, all of us from Kashari, and it's the cattle keepers from that part of the country. Then the ones there say, no, maybe it's the ones who are related by ethnic blood, by DNA. But what we are dealing with, and that's why leaders must have the courage to deal with this and not have the cowardice to tribalize it. It's cowardice. It is writing to a selected group of Bachiga. Bachiga, by the way, not even Banyankole, a selected group of Bachiga.
No,
and
he wrote
Banyankole.
to the retired Justice Batika Turebe, Honorable.
He said elders from Ankole and
Mary Karolo
and
Chigezi.
He said elders from where? What are you defending, Apple?
No, the list is there.
They know, but the letter was to who?
He is giving us the list.
The letter was to elders of Ankole and
Chigezi.
so were they teaching Edem Ruchig? Why do you bring them? Why are you blackmailing these old people?
You call it
Who
black,
have contributed
you call it blackmail?
Yes. That have contributed to, by the way, that have spoken out about the excesses. Who of those have not spoken out? So we cannot. I don't want to be apologetic.
So you look at
so
it as someone
therefore, two wrongs.
who is milking
Two
political
wrongs,
capital.
Apollo, don't make it right.
Yeah.
No. If you take a Ugandan in a basement, you debase them and teach them Runyankore or Chiga or Giso, whatever, against their will.
Yeah.
And one goes to milk it and blackmail retired service people who have served this country. I'm not sure you are any better than each other.
Do you think, or do you agree it is time to bring out this discussion and possibly find a solution?
The discussion, Apollo, should be about equitable sharing of public resources, not tribes. If you start going on that one, both of you are no better. We don't deserve to have you.
Do you see it, as you say, it is a way of milking political capital around this period as we head into
Blackmail.
blackmail,
Apollo.
and blackmail as we
Blackmail.
head into the 2026 elections.
And
Do you
beyond.
see,
And beyond.
do you
I am
see-
not talking about
Wait a
2026
minute.
only. And beyond. We are here. This country is here.
Do you see it escalating and possibly, gaining traction, or it's something we can ignore and move on?
It can escalate. It can de-escalate, depending on how we behave towards it. We must behave logically. We must behave openly. We must behave honestly. Towards that, we can de-escalate it or we can escalate it. And this threat that it is going to escalate in the face of one and the other, no one has control over that escalation. No one.
Apollo.
We are going for a break. Just one minute.
statement, really. If, for instance, you asked me, from where I stand, would I have made that tweet? Now, in my capacity now, the way I am,
I
my
haven't
answer is
asked
no.
you that.
My answer is no.
Okay.
That is one. Two, if I was the CDF, would I have tweeted that way? My answer still is no. Three, the letter that has been written to the elders, wherever those elders are, was it necessary to write to them to ask their opinion on this?
To blackmail them into taking a certain position.
Certainly.
Not asking their
I
opinion.
don't think that was necessary. Still, that is me. Why? Because they had nothing to do with the tweet. Four, and finally, are we in order to be having this kind of conversation at this material time? Yes, and it is unfortunate. Why? Because NRM has come from has covered such a long distance that this kind of conversation now should be in the past.
Thank you so much, Comrade Daniel Rugarama. Daniel Rugarama is a lawyer, but also chairman of the Pan-African Movement. My name is Prince Apollo. We go for a short break, but when we return, we continue the conversation on these tribal sentiments that are popping up in public discourse. Are they really warranted? Are we handling the matter, which seems to be rather sensitive, in a better way or not? Let's go for a break as we continue to interrogate the general state of politics in this country. We go for a break. We'll return after a short while.